Morning, everyone. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. I will adjourn the meeting at 10:45 should we not be finished by that point, to allow our members to participate in the Armistice Day service and 2 minutes silence being held in the Market Square. Following the service, we're also invited to participate in a short wreath laying ceremony in the form of members' entrance to county buildings should they wish to do so. Chantal has informed me this morning when we do leave we can go out through the old members' entrance. That is open at that point to make it a bit easier than walking around the building. Okay. First item on the agenda, we've got some apologies. Councillor Mandry has said he can't make it today. Anyone else got any other apologies? It's fine. Any declarations of interests? Good. And we've got the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of July 2025, which I have in front of me. Is everyone happy that they are a true and accurate reflection of that meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I agree. I will sign that. So only a few items on the agenda today. So the first one is the Endowment Charities Annual Account for 2024-2025. So I shall hand over.
Good morning. Just a bit of a recap that obviously the County Council is custodian trustee to 13 educational endowment charities. Part of its requirements are to do the investment and the administration for these charities. Part of that requirements is also to approve the annual accounts in order that they can be submitted to the Charities Commission. The allocation of income is delegated to the managing trustees at the schools of the educational endowments. Officers of the County Council then check the spend is in accordance with the trustees, produce the accounts, and then once approved by this committee, submit the accounts to the Charity Commission. You'll find in the appendix the details of all the charities. We also have 3 charities which have income of over £25,000 per year. So as per the Charity Commission regulations, we're required to submit a trustees report from this committee and also an internal audit report of those charities' accounts. Those can all be found in Appendix 1. Does anybody have any questions?
I think it just might be worth just having a quick look at one of the accounts. They are very simple, they are very straightforward, but I think being as the committee is new, if you look on page 18 of your pack at the Rugeley Educational Endowment, which used to be an endowment that was supportive of 3 schools in Rugeley, and it now predominantly supports the Hart School in Rugeley. Obviously, there is a balance there on temporary investment, and that is invested as part of the County Council's cash pot, but the interest is accrued separately to the charity. And what you therefore see on the income is the interest on temporary investments, and that relates to that balance. So we keep a balance ongoing to make sure we can pay the requests for expenditure as they come through. The interest on permanent investment on that one relates to the money, the interest that is received from the investments at the bottom of that page. So the QEMS investment fund income shares, that generates about 53,000 a year, and that's the income you can see there. So it's they are straightforward. And obviously expenditure varies. This particular charity will spend on education visits. Some have prize giving evenings, which they still hold. You can see their sporting cultural activities, and sometimes they use financial assistance for uniforms and things like that. So they are very simple accounts. They're just sort of basic income and expenditure, and the report and the audit reflect that simplicity as well. So they're not in great detail, but happy to take any questions, as Helen said.
So that's fine. Thank you very much for that, Mel. I know Councillor Hall and I discussed beforehand a couple of things that we both picked up actually. There's 5 of the charities, obviously the Tamworth and District Youth Centre we're aware of because we discussed that in our last meeting a few months ago. But Stoner Lanes Foundation Endowment, Broodsea Middle Academy Charity, Burton-on-Trent Educational Charity and Joan and Peter Harris Music Trust, the last 2 to a lesser extent. Notice there's no expenditure for those recorded. Obviously charities are there to give money out and help people. Why wasn't there anything for those?
Sometimes they'll be saving for a bigger project. Stoner Lanes wanted, I think was it Lanes that wanted a theatre at one point, and they saved the money up for a few years to actually spend it on a theatre. We send the accounts out to the schools so they are aware that the money is there, and occasionally the Charity Commission itself will have a bit of a cleanse and want to know why there's been no expenditure. So they are aware. Sometimes it's just a basic turnover at school. They've not realised what the money's for and they can actually spend it. So we just make sure that if there's been a couple of years where there hasn't been any expenditure, we will just write to them and remind them what it's for and send them a copy of the trust deed. So it's not unusual. The one that is a little bit different, and actually we've emailed about it this morning, is the Burton-on-Trent one. That doesn't have a scheme at the moment. It's not registered with the Charity Commission.
It is.
It's registered with Charity, sorry. But it was born out of some land, a school that was sold, and the land was used to build a primary school. That income is sort of sitting there, and the conversation really is about whether it's worth administering it or whether we wind it up and donate that money to another charity of a similar ilk in Burton. So that's a piece of work that we're doing at the moment. So we haven't invested that permanent endowment. But obviously any winding up a charity has to go through the Charities Commission, and there's a process to do that. So we will be looking at that as well.
Councillor Brown.
Just a small point. If you're aware of schools or thinking of projects and keeping money aside or whatever, it'd be really quite nice and interesting for us to be aware when we meet twice a year, unless I've missed it in the report, just so that we understand, like you've just described to us, but we can actually see it, and then when it comes to fruition and their request, we've got an idea what's going on and understand. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I mean, that was very similar actually to what I was going to ask, to have some sort of a plan, because, you know, I mean, the other sort of thought was perhaps to monitor some of the dormant charities quarterly or not annually, depends on how happy I think we are with that plan. I mean, I don't want to go too over the top, because you could say, well, let's go back at the last 3 or 4 years and see what's happened, you know, over that time period, and are they accumulating funds for a particular project. But so yeah, I think that's I think we're pretty aligned on that. Thank you.
Any further questions on this point? Okay, so the committee are asked to consider whether A... Oh, no, wrong one. My apologies. That's the next one. So the recommendations and actions required for the Endowment Charities Annual Accounts 2024-2025. A, that the Charity and Trust Committee approve the annual account for the 2024-2025 for 13 charities where Staffordshire County Council is the custodian trustee, see Appendix 1 that we've just discussed. B, that the Charity and Trust Committee approve the trustees' annual reports for the 3 charities, which are required to submit such to the Charities Commission. All agree? Yeah. Anyone opposed? And no abstentions. Thank you very much. And our second item for discussion today is a late addition, which I hope you've all had a chance to read through. It did come out on yesterday. It's regarding the Queen Elizabeth Mercy and School. It's an application by Landau Forte Charitable Trust as tenant for a licence for alterations under an academy lease dated 19th February 2023 in respect of the Elizabeth Block at Landau Forte Academy, QEMS, Ashby Road, Tamworth, B79 8AH. So the item of consideration, we're asked to consider whether to grant a licence for alterations as required under the provisions of a 125-year academy lease dated 9th February 2022, the lease, to enable the Landau Forte Charitable Trust, Landau Forte, to commission the installation of solar roof panels to company equipment on the roof of its Elizabeth Block, and B, delegate approval to the Assistant Director for Commercial Land Assets to agree the final form of all documents required to complete the licence for alterations. I'll now open the floor for questions regarding this, unless anyone's got anyone they want to discuss first.
Just to help you understand the situation, so part of the school, Landau Forte, is county council owned and leased, and part of it is the trust. So the county council's given consent under the lease, landlord's consent for the school to put the solar panels on the bit that's owned by the county council. It has to come here because part of it, because for the part of the property that is held under trust that's leased out. So That's really why we're coming here for an equivalent of landlord's consent. It's for officers, for county council property, but not so for trust property. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Yeah, hi. I mean, if you go through the sort of, I mean, the risks and the liabilities, I think they're mostly covered on the, from the insurance. I don't think we've seen a confirmation of insurance for this particular part, but I don't know if that's covered by the work on Staff's County Council as well as this particular building. There's been independent structural safety assessment, so that's nothing outstanding on that. Will the works disrupt school use? That hasn't been, because that's obviously an impact on the charity, but I guess it's already happening in other parts of the school as well, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. There's no legal risk to the charity or financial risk. Benefits aligned with our charitable purpose. Yes, we think that's good. So from my side, I've checked. They're the things I've checked, and I'm happy with that. I'll leave it for my colleagues.
Okay, as I obviously asked Chantel, yes, the other day when she brought this to my attention, there's no costs for the council. It's all been approved already. This company's already putting those on the rest of the school as it is. So I've got no issues with this. Are we happy to agree this? Yep, agreed. Thank you very much. So that's that done. Is there any other items to discuss today? No? Well, in that case, I shall bring this meeting to a close. Thank you very much for your attendance.